Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ganesh Srinivasan. I'm a program manager in the Microsoft Azure networking team. I'm really happy to be here in front of literally a full room to talk to you all about what we've been doing for quite a while now. So I am from the Microsoft Azure networking team, and I primarily focus on hybrid networking. So one of the services that I own that I've been working on for the past 2 years is ExpressRoute. So you'll see me talk about ExpressRoute quite a bit over the course of this session. So let's see what I'm going to be spending the next hour and 15 minutes on. So I'm going to first start talking about ExpressRoute and how you would connect to the cloud. What does ExpressRoute as a service have to offer for you in terms of connecting to the Microsoft cloud? I'm not using the word Azure, if you see, because it's going to be beyond Azure. I'm going to be talking about connecting to the Office 365 services as well. So I'll start off by talking about ExpressRoute as a service and what ExpressRoute has to offer. Then we'll do a quick whirlwind tour of several hybrid scenarios that you can run on Microsoft Azure. We'll talk about what you can do for DR, what you can do for backup, what you can do for replication of images, and whatever you want to, you could do. You could do quite a few things with the Azure services. So we'll do a quick tour of some of the services. I'll show you a quick demo of some of the services in action. Followed by that, I will actually talk about what it means. We made an announcement about a month back saying you would be able to consume Office 365 services through ExpressRoute. I'll talk a little bit about when and how you would be able to use it. And then we'll primarily spend a bulk of time talking about what do you have to think about in planning your network design? What do you have to think about in terms of extending your network into the cloud, specifically around connectivity to Azure and Office 365? Do you have to think about performance, latency, throughput, QoS? What parameters do you optimize for? How do you think about security in the context of cloud connectivity, and so on? And then I'll wrap it up with a real example. I'll talk about how the Microsoft IT organization has used ExpressRoute and how the Microsoft IT team has actually moved about 6,000 to 8,000 virtual machines into production today, and they move about 1,000 VMs a month, and how they've essentially established their hybrid network using ExpressRoute. So that's what I have. I'll try and have about 10 minutes in the end, if possible, for question and answers. If I don't, I have a lot of content to go through. I'll stick around for a few minutes here after the session. You can stop by and ask questions. If not, you can find the entire networking team in the expo hall, and we'd be happy to talk to you all about any of the stuff that I talk about here. So let's get into stuff. So there's been a big shift, and I've been in Azure for about 4 years. From when I started in Azure till today, I've been in each of these conferences presenting Azure and various networking topics. The one thing I've seen is 4 years back, people used to ask me, what is Azure, what is the cloud, and what can I do with it? To now, quite a few of you have met me in the past in various conferences or have talked to me, have very detailed questions. So it's very heartening to see you all do that. So that's what this slide is kind of capturing, or is meant to capture. 4 years back or a few years back, there was a tendency where people tended to own pretty much all the hardware that they had, and pretty much what the IT team thought about was, how do I patch the OS? How do I basically manage and maintain my disk subsystem? Or what kind of a network do I have to build to support this kind of a traffic in my network? So everything was at the very low physical level. So things like that required you to plan well ahead of time, spend a lot of money building, buying infrastructure, racking and stacking it, managing the life cycle of the hardware and things like that. From that point in time, we actually see a major shift in how people approach these things right now. They've started looking at the cloud and consuming these resources, primarily compute, storage, and networking, as services rather than essentially building and managing physical hardware and all these resources. So that trend is really great. We really don't, I think we'd love to have you all on Azure, but the trend is towards any cloud at this point in time. Again, you go one layer up the stack. Instead of actually managing Windows servers or Linux servers, running SAP or Oracle or SQL Server and doing things like that, we see a trend moving towards the point where people are starting to consume these as services, SQL databases as a service, consuming third-party non-SQL database solutions as a service rather than having to, again, sit and manage farms of SQL servers to run your databases off of. And then finally, we see this trend where You basically take all your legacy applications which have been written 20, 30 years back, which are still doing great, but you've reached a point where it's not really maintainable and manageable. You want to be thinking about migrating them to the cloud. So that's really great. Your whole design philosophy on how you designed and looked at things would change fundamentally, basically because in the past, the focus has always been on build once, build your services and your infrastructure to the point where it fails very rarely. It doesn't, you optimize for mean time between failures. Whereas in the cloud world or in the way we are headed, you optimize for failure. So your design patterns and how you design is, you design for recovering from failures. How fast can you recover if a failure happens? And you assume that failure is a fact of life. So these are interesting shifts that are happening in the industry that I've personally seen being in Azure for the past 4 years. And it's great to see people such as yourselves adopting the cloud really well. And the reason I talk about all these trends is you're talking about moving stuff to the cloud. And you're never going to be in a situation where your services and your machines truly run on premises or truly run in the cloud. There's going to be cases where you start running your applications half within your premises and half in the cloud. At some point in time, at least some of your applications will be in some state of transition between your premises and the cloud. So if I was to define hybrid in the context of what I'm talking about, it's going to be basically running your services where some instances or some tiers of your application are running in your premises or in some location, and the remaining tiers are running in another location, or they're spread across multiple locations. So how do you get services and applications to run when they are distributed across the premises and the cloud? And being from the networking team, I'm going to focus quite a bit in terms of how do you connect your premises to the cloud or the various environments, your private cloud, your on-premises data center, your public cloud hosted with another service provider, and Microsoft Azure. How can you connect all these locations and build a network on which you can deploy and through which you can consume all the services that we have to offer? So with that, this slide is going to take you through pretty much a whirlwind of all the services that we have in Azure. So at a high level, I'm going to be talking about ExpressRoute, which is going to enable you to connect your premises or what you have running in a private data center into the Microsoft cloud. This is going to be using quite a few networking technologies like virtual networks, our load balancing solution. We have stuff around, we have a lot of exciting new features and capabilities that we are going to be announcing this week. So if you want to learn more about the exciting announcements that are coming in the networking space, there's a session tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock that talks about all the new exciting networking features that we are announcing. So we're going to be announcing the ability to basically run various third-party virtual appliances in the cloud platform. We will be talking about security appliances in the cloud. We'll be talking about quite a few investments we've made to make the Azure network that you create look and feel just like what you have on premises. So ultimately, the network is pretty much the enabler. It's just the backbone on which you build all your services. So we have quite a few compute services that you can run on top of our virtual networks and that use our networks. Compute without data or storage is pretty much useless. So we have quite a bit of services that basically, in Azure, that basically offer different kinds of solutions for you. So you could use SQL databases as a finished service, or you could use the Azure storage solution as is. It's a blob, table, or a queue that you could use for your services. So there are different kinds of offerings that you can use. I'll touch upon some of them later in this session. And then you have application layer services. These are essentially finished services that you can consume and not have to worry about setting up and managing infrastructure. So one of the big areas of focus, this is a big area of focus for us for all of Azure. So we focus on 3 key areas. One is basically hyperscale. If you've not looked at the footprint of Azure, you'll see that we've got about 19 regions worldwide today. We have one of the largest footprints that cover pretty much all the continents in the world. And we also have special clouds for the federal government and specific regions, like China is not part of our production cloud, but it is actually a separate environment that we run for China. So that talks to you about what scale we have. Our primary focus is going to be enterprise-grade features and solutions that we offer in the platform. I hope over the next, if not today in this session, over the next 3 or 4 days, you get to see the parts of Azure that's going to give you insights into what we've done to make our services enterprise grade. It's going to be, the number of releases that we put out in the last year to make our solutions enterprise grade has been just phenomenal. And the third thing is our focus is on hybrid. So we as Microsoft are in a unique position where we can actually have a solution for you that runs on the Hyper-V cloud on-prem or that runs on the public cloud, which is Microsoft Azure. And our team in particular spends quite a bit of time building these connectivity solutions that enable a seamless path between the private cloud and the public cloud. Now with that, I'm going to be focusing most of the discussion today around connectivity, specifically using ExpressRoute and how it's going to enable you to consume various Azure services. But for connectivity, you need to know a little bit about the Microsoft network. We are one of the largest. If you were to think of us as a telco or in the scale of a telco, we are one of the largest telcos in the world. These numbers out there speak for themselves. We've got 85 peering locations. We peer with about 1,600, 1,700 people, different networks, different service providers across all these locations. We've got tons, miles and miles of fiber, not only within our data center, but fiber that we manage that connects all our regions and all the services within Microsoft. In fact, our team, the Azure networking team, manages the network for pretty much all of Microsoft. This includes services like Office 365 and Bing. So our team builds, deploys, and manages these networks at scale. So we have the expertise in building and deploying and managing these at scale. And we invest quite a bit of our money into making sure that cloud is the area of focus and is the future. So keep that at the back of your mind, and I'll talk about how ExpressRoute fits into this scheme of things in enabling enterprise-class connectivity to the cloud. So basically, there are 4 different ways in which you could connect securely to the cloud. Depends on the service, depends on the solution. You can pick the right connectivity solution that meets your needs. So far, the most common practice has been connectivity through the public internet. So most people are used to setting up a virtual machine or a bunch of services in Azure, connecting over SSL or RDP or whatever is your preferred protocol of choice. You just establish a connection over the public internet and consume these services. These are great for essentially end consumers who are consuming your services that are running in the public cloud. And it's great for certain scenarios where you basically have to rely on basically application layer concepts, and you don't really have to worry about security and a lot of data transfer. Now, from a hybrid perspective, you care about creating a private environment in the cloud and having to connect this private environment in the cloud to your network. In such cases, just vanilla connectivity over the internet does not make the cut. I'll talk about hybrid scenarios in the next few slides, but one of the key scenarios that people typically start off with the cloud is doing proof of concepts, dev test scenarios, setting up a simple lab in the cloud, trying out what it has to offer, and so on. In such cases, while you have the ability to set up a private cloud or a virtual private cloud in Azure, you really want private connectivity to it. And since you're doing a dev test or a prototype kind of an effort, you really want to be able to connect to your environment in a secure manner that's not very heavyweight. If you've got to talk to your IT organization to set up a heavyweight VPN tunnel or ExpressRoute for that matter, it's going to take weeks or months to have that set up. So we have a solution called point-to-site connectivity that basically enables you to essentially establish a sort of an SSL VPN connection into the virtual private network that you have in Azure. So it's a simple, seamless setup, no software installation required. If you're running a Windows client machine or a Windows server machine, the built-in VPN client enables you to connect to the cloud. That's what we call as point-to-site connectivity. The next phase is you want to do a small-scale deployment in the cloud. You want to have site-to-site connectivity between what you have in Azure and what you have on-prem. We have this solution called Virtual Network VPN Gateways, where you can deploy a managed site-to-site VPN gateway in Azure and have connectivity between your premises and the cloud. Now, the final case, which is what I'm going to be spending 90% of the time from this point on, is going to be ExpressRoute. ExpressRoute is our enterprise-class connectivity solution that bypasses the internet. It enables you to connect between your premises and Azure without having to go through the internet. And we want you to start thinking about this solution as the solution to connect to the Microsoft cloud. You're not just connecting to Azure, that's where it stands today, but you would be consuming any Microsoft cloud service that's coming out down the road through this physical pipe or this logical connection that you set up between your premises and Microsoft. So as it stands today, if you were consuming services through the internet, you could either connect through the public endpoints to your virtual machines, or you set up a point-to-site connection or a site-to-site VPN connection. It goes over the internet, which is good. You have connectivity from anywhere at any point in time. But the drawbacks are that the internet is not controlled or managed by any single entity. So there's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of moving parts involved in the process. So there's not a single entity that controls it. So at some point in time, you may get excellent performance and latency and throughput, while at other points in time, your performance may not be as good as what you expected it to be. It's because no one controls the internet. So if you wanted to really run your mission-critical applications and services in the cloud, you want some sort of performance predictability or some sort of a reliable connection where you know what path a packet takes from your network into the Microsoft cloud. It's not just that. You want to have some sort of a trusted relationship with the person who enables that connectivity to you between your premises and the cloud. And that's what ExpressRoute really is. ExpressRoute is essentially a private dedicated connection between your WAN and the Microsoft network. So we offer this in partnership with various network service providers and exchanges around the world. So you could connect to Microsoft through any of your trusted providers. So if you've been using a service provider to connect all the branch offices within your network, you could use the same service provider to extend your network into the Microsoft cloud and make the Microsoft cloud look like just another branch office within your corporate network. So since the network is actually managed by a service provider who's been doing that for decades, they know the business really well. They offer a high level of performance predictability within the VPN network or whatever sort of network they set up and manage for you. So just extending it into the cloud gives you that benefit directly. It's secure. The MPLS networks that people tend to deploy and manage are secure. So you extend that into the cloud, you get that level of security right up to our doorstep. And from that point in time, we take it on and route into our data centers where you've hosted your services. We've been able to offer SKUs up to 10 gigabits per second. You can get ExpressRoute circuits that are highly available and redundant and scalable that can drive up to 10 gigabits per second between your premises and Microsoft. And finally, if you're doing a lot of data transfer between your premises and Azure or Office 365, which I'll talk about, the ISP path may not be as economical as going through your private network. So it varies from case by case depending on the service providers, but in a lot of cases, you can save substantially by routing traffic to all these services through a private channel rather than having to go through your ISP. So let's look at ExpressRoute. ExpressRoute is essentially a highly available logical connection between your premises and the Microsoft cloud. So it's a connection that we set up in partnership with a service provider. We classify them as network service providers and exchange providers. Through them, you could connect to the virtual machines or your websites or your web services that you host in Azure that you're currently deploying in virtual networks in Azure. Before I go any further, how many of you are familiar with virtual networks and virtual machines in Azure? Wow, excellent. So it looks like a majority of you have heard of it or have used virtual machines and virtual networks in some shape or form. So basically, if you have a virtual network in Azure, it's got a private IP address that's an extension of your premises. So you would be able to essentially deploy your virtual machines into that virtual network with private IP addresses. If you were to just link that virtual network into your ExpressRoute circuit, which is in turn connected to your WAN, your virtual machines are part of your branch office or part of your WAN at that point in time. Azure is just another branch office, or your virtual network at that point in time is just another branch office. Now, in addition to just virtual machines and virtual networks, we have tons and tons of Azure services. Storage as a service, databases as a service, site recovery as a service, backup as a service, and so on. These services are hosted on public endpoints. So you do want to connect to them and consume these services as well through this private dedicated connection that you set up. So we have connectivity to those services as well. And for the very first time, we are talking about connectivity to non-Azure services through ExpressRoute. So we are going to start enabling connectivity to Office 365 services, namely Exchange Online, SharePoint Online, and Skype for Business. Skype for Business was previously called Lync Online. All these three services can be consumed over the ExpressRoute connection that you set up between your premises and Microsoft. Now, with Exchange, SharePoint, and Lync, you get a laundry list of services that just get added onto the list. We'll cover that in a bit. So where are these services offered, and through which provider is it offered through? So we have about 20 peering locations worldwide. I didn't count, and a few more that's coming. So if you look at the US, we are very well covered with about 7 or 8 peering locations. If you enter any peering location in that particular geo or that continent, you have connectivity to all Microsoft regions within that continent. As an example, in this case, if I was to connect to Microsoft in Silicon Valley, I have access to all the regions within the US through that ExpressRoute connection that you set up through Silicon Valley. So if you bridge your WAN into Microsoft in Silicon Valley, you have access to the US. The same way, if you connect it to us in Amsterdam, you have access to our European data centers and so on. And we've got partnerships with about 22 of the top tier 1 telcos in the world. And this list is rapidly expanding by the year. We launched this service May last year at TechEd, and we launched it in Silicon Valley, Washington, D.C., and in London with Equinix, AT&T, and British Telecom. Today, we are in 20-odd locations with services coming for the federal government cloud, and we have a few additional regions coming up in terms of India and a few additional points in Japan and Australia. So with that, our footprint is growing in terms of connectivity, and the number of service provider partners that we've onboarded grows exponentially. You've seen us grow to about 20 plus in a year. Wait till you see the number next year. If I'm here next year, I wouldn't have any space in the slide to list for anything other than listing partner names. As I mentioned, there are two different SKUs that we offer ExpressRoute connectivity on. I'll cover that in a little bit of detail further down in this session, but we've classified our partners as exchange providers and network service providers. People who offer point-to-point connectivity, for a lack of a better term at this point in time, are classified as exchange providers. People who offer IPVPN services or any-to-any connectivity solutions are classified under the network service providers. So the list below is sort of distributed between the two categories. So I'm going to stop talking about ExpressRoute for a few minutes. I'm going to talk about the scenarios. ExpressRoute is just a way to connect your networks to the Microsoft cloud. If you were to connect your premises to the Microsoft cloud, what kind of services can you use that we have to offer that could take advantage of ExpressRoute will be the focus for the next 15-20 minutes. I'll then get back to talking about ExpressRoute in terms of connectivity to Office 365 and the design considerations that you have to make to establish this connectivity. So there are several standard scenarios, but the key ones that we see and the ones that we'd encourage you to start off with are the 6 that we have below. We'll start off with talking about storage, backup, and recovery. We'll talk about how you can use the cloud for dev, test, and proof of concept scenarios. We'll talk about what you can do with big data, media, basically running production applications in hybrid mode, and what you can do in terms of productivity services. So let's start with the first scenario. We have Azure Site Recovery and Azure Backup. Azure Site Recovery, one of the scenarios for which people spend years planning for spending millions of dollars is disaster recovery. You're always in the fear of losing your primary data center or the primary resources that you have running in the cloud or running on-prem. You want to have some sort of a DR copy running somewhere that basically is ready for you in case disaster strikes. And the amount of money people have spent is pretty much proportional to what they spent in building their primary data center. Now, Azure Site Recovery promises to reduce the amount of money you spend in terms of setting up and building your DR environment. It's DR offered to you as a service. So basically what the service does is You identify the list of virtual machines and services that you want to snapshot and prepare for DR. It creates a copy and stores snapshots of your virtual machines and stores them in Azure. And once disaster actually happens, or in case disaster happens, I would say not once disaster happens, you would be basically able to recreate this environment from what you've taken snapshots from. And you don't have to do it in your premises. You can use it to spin up all the instances back in Azure as a service. The service actually does it for you. Now, it's not only limited to services that you run on-prem, that run on Hyper-V. You can also use this service to basically use the DR capabilities for your cloud that runs on VMware as well. So later on in this session, I'll do a quick demo to show you how DR can be set up and how easy it is to set up. It's actually about 10 clicks of the mouse gets you a DR environment that you can have running in Azure. It's pretty simple and easy to set up. And I definitely encourage you to try this service with at least 1 or 2 virtual machines in your premises if you've not already tried out. It's simple and easy to set up, and there's no upfront expenditure that you have to put in place to basically set up the environment. Now, why am I talking about this in the context of ExpressRoute? The first thing is treat Azure as just another branch office. You need a fat pipe that ExpressRoute offers that helps you take snapshots of all your virtual machines that are on premises and send it to the Azure cloud for storage purposes. The second thing is, in case a disaster happens, you have the ability to spin up the exact environment in Azure in a virtual network, and having that virtual network connected to ExpressRoute means any of the branch offices in your network can connect to this DR copy when your main data center is down. So it's a very useful service, and DR being one of the key areas of focus for us, there are several sessions in this conference where DR, we are going to talk about Azure Site Recovery in great detail. So I encourage you all, if you're interested in this, this is going to be key for your planning for the future, to attend one of these sessions to learn more about Azure Site Recovery. Now, the Azure Backup service is very similar to Azure Site Recovery. The only difference is that it runs in the context of your application. So you can identify folders that you want to back up. Through a few clicks of the mouse, you can actually start backing up folders or drives into Azure. And if something happens, you can recover from the snapshots that you have running in the cloud. The next scenario I wanted to talk about is, we have this solution called StoreSimple. It's basically storage offered to you, bottomless storage offered to you as a service. You buy this SAN appliance, or the SAN appliance gets given to you. You deploy it into your network. It just looks like a SAN, but it actually indexes and backs up all the data into Azure. So what it does dedupe, it indexes, it does quite a few fancy things. So you don't have to basically worry about when you're going to run out of storage. It automatically knows what's least used in that SAN and pushes that content into the Azure storage stack. And whatever you access most is indexed and actually stored within the SAN environment itself. Since we are talking about storage, we've talked about cases where people actually run compute on-prem and storage in Azure, or basically use storage for backup and DR purposes. We are seeing this interesting trend where people who care a lot about compliance don't want data running in the cloud. Data running in the cloud may violate quite a few compliance regulations for that specific industry. In such cases, you can think about having compute run in Azure. Compute is elastic, burstable. You can throw in more instances as needed and shrink down instances if you don't need them. And run storage on premises. That way you can put your storage filers in locked cages and save them and make sure that you have full control over your storage systems. So this is a big scenario, and partners such as EMC and NetApp have built a lot of solutions around how you can achieve this. In partnership with exchanges like Equinix, and NetApp has the solution called NPS. You should check out their booths. You can essentially have a NetApp filer that's running in the Equinix cage, which is about a millisecond or two away from the Microsoft data center. So you will get LAN class performance over the WAN between the Azure services that you have and between the cages that you have, between the filers and storage subsystems that you have running in your colo facility. So let's talk about dev test scenarios. So the first thing people do is, do I trust the cloud enough? Let me first play around with the cloud a little before I do anything serious with it. So I first start setting up a virtual network. I start deploying a bunch of virtual machines in them, playing around with it. And when I start trusting the cloud, which is what Microsoft IT started doing right now after several years of us forcing them, they've started moving the smaller applications. They started moving the smaller, less critical applications into Azure first, and are now at a point where they've started moving the serious applications into the Azure cloud. So you see that trend constantly, and at any point in time, whether it's dev test, where you have your dev environment on-prem, talking to your compute instances running in the cloud, or you have some tiers, your database tier sitting on-prem, the rest of your compute tier sitting in Azure. That's what we call hybrid from a compute perspective, and this is a very common scenario. How many of you here have deployments in Azure that, not just Azure, in Azure or any cloud that looks and feels like this? Wow, I expected a lot more people to have that configuration. So just to give you a taste of how this looks and feels, I'm going to walk you through a quick demo. We will look at a SharePoint farm that I've set up. It's going to incorporate several aspects. The SharePoint farm is a very good example of a multi-tier application. It has a web front end. It's got an application tier. It relies on Active Directory for identity, and it requires a database like SQL Server for storage. So basically, you have a classic multi-tier application. And what I've done as part of this demo is actually divided up my SharePoint deployments between a virtual network in Azure and a deployment that I have in the Equinix lab facility. So I have a bunch of hypervisors that are deployed in the Equinix cage and the remaining in Azure. Now, for me to get a full SharePoint experience, I need to have all my front ends load balanced. So to show you that, I have a virtual F5 load balancer running in Equinix and another F5 virtual load balancer that's running as a virtual machine in Azure. We are accessing these services over a WAN. So I have connected a Riverbed WAN optimizer between the premises and Azure to basically optimize traffic that's going between the premises and Azure. And just to make sure that something happens to the hardware that I have on premises, I have set up Azure Site Recovery to back up everything in the cloud. Believe it or not, the last time I did this demo, my servers did crash. The physical servers did crash. My friends from Equinix ran to the data center to save it, but it was beyond repair. But in a way, it was good because I wanted to show DR, and disaster had actually happened. So needless to say, the demo was actually good. It was not a demo at that point in time. It was real. So let's start with Azure. So I basically have eight virtual machines that you can see out here. I have a big IP, an F5 load balancer. So one of the things that you're going to hear us talk about in the next few days is the amount of investments we've made with partners in enabling a virtual appliance ecosystem. The F5 load balancer is one example. Just to show you, this is really snappy to set up and configure. So if you're used to configuring F5 load balancers and so on, you can see that it feels as responsive as what you have for a physical device. And just to show you a comparison, I have a physical big IP that's running in Equinix. So you can actually see the difference between what you have as a physical appliance and what's running as a VM. They pretty much look and feel and perform as well as the ones that you have on-prem. So this is the big IP that's a physical big IP where I've actually configured a pool with 4 front ends. 2 of the front ends have 10.IP addresses. Those are the front ends that I have for my virtual machines running in Azure. And the 216.IP addresses that you see here are the IP addresses that we have running in Equinix. So by hitting the load balanced WIP, I can actually hit any of the front ends depending on whichever is loaded. And to show you that, I'm going to log into my first virtual machine. This is a SharePoint client machine that's running in Azure. It doesn't like my credentials for some reason, so let me try another way to get there. So as you can see, I have a SharePoint farm that I have running in Azure. You click through it, it loads. It's just a SharePoint farm where I've actually created a DNS name, SP intranet, maps to the IP address that's mapped to the F5 load balancer, and it's load balanced this traffic between the premises and Azure. So this is, and I access this from the domain controller that I have running in Equinix. So this is the setup where I have two hypervisors. The first hypervisor actually has a domain controller, two application servers, and one instance of the SQL database. Now, in the interest of time, I'm not going to do that, but what I typically do is I log into the SQL server and start a failover of the database, and typically within 30 seconds, the entire database fails over from the primary to secondary. I think the primary right now is the one running in Azure. You can go back and forth, and it takes about 30 seconds or 45 seconds to fail over an entire database from the premises to the cloud. Now, the other thing to note here is that this SharePoint farm is set up for site recovery. So if I go back to the Azure web page and clicked on site recovery, I've created a vault. I've created all the right things to basically place some of my virtual machines into the site recovery. Right now, I have SQL Server database and the domain controller in my protection group, so they constantly get indexed and backed up in Azure. So in case something happens, I can actually have a DR copy, and I can in fact test failover since it's ready. Now, adding another virtual machine to this DR as a service is as simple as clicking here, saying I want my app server 1 to be added into the site recovery mix. I'm going to say this is my OS disk. Go for it. And about a couple of minutes from now, you're actually going to see this start replicating data into Azure. And again, that traffic is also going to be using ExpressRoute. I've seen that WAN optimizers do a couple of things really well. They do optimize traffic, of course. They do dedupe and stuff like that. The other great benefit of having a WAN optimizer in the path is that it gives you a lot of telemetry that I haven't seen anyone else give me that amount of telemetry. So I'm going to log into a Riverbed WAN optimizer, which is placed between the deployment that I have running in Equinix, which is a physical Riverbed WAN optimizer running there, and a virtual instance that's actually running in the same virtual network as the SharePoint farm that I have. It may be a case where I have too many passwords and I don't remember the right one. Here it is. So earlier today, I was trying it out. So you can see the result of me trying it out. That was, I think, the domain controller being added to the DR pool. Within a matter of a few minutes, the entire snapshot, since I used ExpressRoute, it was pretty fast. I could actually get the image up into Azure in a matter of a few minutes. So you can do quite a few fancy things. There's a Riverbed booth downstairs. You should be going and talking to them if you want to learn more about how you can actually use a WAN optimizer to optimize connectivity to the Microsoft cloud. So there are quite a few things that you can do. In the interest of time, I'm not going to go into details of each of these aspects. This, I believe, is a true representative example of how a typical line of business application or any multi-tier application looks, and the different kinds of services that you can actually use that we have to offer to basically enable to have it optimized for the cloud. So we saw the SharePoint farm, we saw Azure Site Recovery. Now, I also talked about NetApp offering NPS, where storage can be running on-prem, compute running in the cloud. This is yet another example of Azure Site Recovery plus NetApp, where you can use the NetApp filer as the shared storage solution. Since it's running in a cage in a colo facility, you can use ExpressRoute to link the colo to Azure. Typically, if you look at Silicon Valley or the Washington, D.C. region, or if you're in the same metro, it's typically sub 5 milliseconds between the colo facility and the Azure data center. It's typically 1 or 2 milliseconds. So you can basically do all these kinds of fancy stuff. I think one of the Azure Site Recovery talks is going to go and spend quite a bit of time on how you can realize these kinds of scenarios. So if you start putting things together, a SharePoint farm with this kind of a storage solution in a hybrid configuration with DR offered as a service, that's really cloud optimized. So let's talk about one of the hot scenarios. Quite a few people love to talk about big data. Now, the problem with big data is either there's so much data that you cannot move data that you want compute for, or you have data that you want elastic compute for, and the cloud is the ideal place to do both. And what we offer with ExpressRoute is this fat pipe that connects your premises to the cloud. So you can either start moving data into the cloud or consuming them, or leave them on-prem, connect your data to compute that's running in Azure using ExpressRoute, and do all the fancy stuff that you wanted to do. And we have services like HD Insight that let you do quite a few of the fancy stuff. We also have services like machine learning that enable you to do quite a bit of stuff with the data that you have. So there are quite a few sessions that are going to be going on in the next few days that talk about big data and Hadoop in particular. So if this is a list of sessions, you should be able to get the slide deck at the end of the session, so you should be able to view them and go to these sessions. Productivity applications. Now, I'm going to make it real quick. In this case, quite a few people are used to having remote desktop as a service, VDI as a service. Now, it's offered as a service on the Azure platform. You can run services where you have the virtual instances run in Azure. People can just use the remote desktop client and connect to these RDP instances that are running in the VDI instances that are running in Azure and use them. And you can have the backends connected to Azure using one of the hybrid connectivity solutions. So, for example, if you want to have everyone log into these virtual machines using their domain credentials, you can have your domain controller run on-prem and with some sort of hybrid connection like ExpressRoute or the site-to-site VPN solution, you can bridge your premises in Azure. Again, there are a couple of sessions that are going on how you can use remote app on Azure. If you're interested in the space, I'd encourage you to go here. Okay, so I realized I've spent about 40 minutes talking about random stuff. Now let's get to the meat of the discussion. So this is the topic that I really enjoy talking about. So first things first, people are used to consuming services over the internet, and till today, you've been consuming Office 365 services through the public internet. What we are in the process of enabling is offering connectivity to Office 365 services just the way you consume Azure services over ExpressRoute. So with the same ExpressRoute circuit, a new circuit that you order, you can actually consume all the Office 365 services, namely Exchange, SharePoint, and Skype for Business. So this is going to be cool because you have one logical connection or a collection of logical connections that you have between your network and Microsoft through which you could consume all the Microsoft cloud services. So it's going to be great. You're going to see Office 365 and Azure today, but as and when we launch newer cloud services, you will see us add support for those services onto ExpressRoute. So you have a private, secure, dedicated, trusted connection between your premises and the Microsoft cloud, be it Azure, Office 365, or anything coming down the road. So this is obviously going to mean you've got to completely rethink how you design and plan your network. This is a service that we're just talking about today. It's not something that we're offering in preview today. It's something that we plan to announce really soon. We're going to launch this service globally with Equinix and AT&T and British Telecom Equinix will be our primary exchange provider who provides connectivity across all geos. We will partner with AT&T for connectivity within the US and with British Telecom for Europe. And in a month or two from when we launch this service, you will see us adding a lot more service providers. You will see the likes of the other service providers that we have in the platform show up in this list of supported service providers who support Office 365. We've had to push the envelope in terms of the engineering work that the service providers had to do to basically enable this connectivity to Office 365. We had to think about things that people never thought about when it came to cloud connectivity, specifically around QoS. I'll talk about that in a bit. But we've had to push quite a bit of the work onto the service providers because we certainly don't want you struggling to set these things up because they are pretty complex and hard to manage. You have to consume them as a service, and in that interest, we're working closely with several partners to make that happen. These will just be the first three. You will see the entire list show up sooner than later. When we launch this service, it's going to be available in all geos. So you're not limiting it to North America or Europe. It's going to be available in Australia or India, wherever you pick. It's going to be available at that point in time. We are hoping to launch this service by the third quarter of this calendar year, which should be 3 to 4 months from now. We've been internally piloting this for the last few months, and we eat our own dog food. This has been a pretty stable service that we've been having running internally. So I believe once we launch this, there's quite a bit of planning, which I'll talk about in a bit, that you've got to go through. And once you've done that, it's going to be rock solid, and it's going to improve the performance of your consumption of Office 365 and these services in general. We're going to start off with these lists of services that we support. We're going to start off with Exchange Online and Exchange Online Protection. When I talk about a main service like Exchange, it comes with a whole bunch of smaller services. We will have SharePoint Online. OneDrive is part for SharePoint Online, so you have access to OneDrive as well. You have access to Skype for Business Online. I'll talk a little bit about that in the next slide. And Office Online, Exchange Word, and PowerPoint Online, and Power BI. So you will see us in the next wave offer additional services from the Office portfolio and other non-Office cloud services as well. So about a month and a half back, the Skype for Business team, Skype for Business is essentially Lync Online rebranded. And Skype for Business is now started offering PSTN-like capabilities where they could be your voice provider of choice. You could essentially use your Skype client to make telephone calls to any phone number anywhere in the world. And this is going to be offered as a service to you. Now, you're now talking about carrying video traffic through your WAN to the public cloud. Voice, video, interactive communications traffic. So the QoS, the performance predictability, the sensitivity to jitter and latency, you'll have to spend a lot of time thinking about it and planning about it. So we are going to require you to use ExpressRoute to connect your WAN to the Microsoft Cloud if you were to use services like that. Because that's the only path through which we know you can have a great experience when you have your voice calls go through this link or not. So it's going to be critical when it comes to carrying voice, video, and interactive communications traffic between your premises and the cloud. So let's talk about what all you need to think about. Let's say you're ready to consume the public cloud. What I've shown you today is just a glimpse. You sit through the bunch of sessions today, and you learn that this is what I want to do. What do I have to think about to basically connect my network to Microsoft? So here's a laundry list of things. I'll go through each one. The first thing you got to think about is, how do I want to connect? Do I go down the internet path? I'm not saying internet is not secure. Internet is secure because we use a lot of encryption everywhere, so it's secure, but you don't get the performance predictability. So do you go the internet route, a VPN route, or the ExpressRoute path? So you pick your connectivity solution. Once you've picked that, how do you think about security when it comes to connectivity to the cloud? I'm just going to scratch the surface. I'm not going to go deep into that. So what does it mean to essentially think about securing your premises and the deployments that you have running in the cloud? How do you route different branch offices to each of these services? How do you control and manage that? Basically, what do you do for performance, availability, and scalability? I'm a multinational company. I have branch offices in every continent. How do I make sure that these services are accessible from everywhere is something you need to think about. And finally, I talked about Skype for Business. You need some sort of a QoS mechanism to make sure that your voice is treated appropriately, prioritized differently from video and interactive communications and so on. So I'll touch upon each of these topics in the next few minutes. First thing is picking your connectivity model. So there's, in all the topics that I'm talking about next, there's no one correct answer. There are hundreds of answers, and it depends on the use case and the parameters that you're trying to optimize your solution for. So internet may be a great choice for you if you're truly distributed. You're in places where you don't have a large WAN footprint, and going through the internet may be good enough for you. In such cases, sticking to the internet to connect to the Microsoft Cloud may be good enough. For your Office 365 services, they are offered through the public internet endpoints. You could continue to consume them that way. For Azure services, you could consume them through, if you want private secure connectivity, you could use site-to-site VPN capabilities that we offer in the platform. We have several new enhancements that we've added to our site-to-site VPN capabilities that you can take a look at. So that's one way of connecting to it. The other is what I'd call point-to-point connectivity through an exchange provider. A very good example of this is Equinix. Equinix is one of our largest partners where we have footprints in pretty much every geo and every location. They are a colo facility. So you could essentially deploy your servers and your infrastructure in a cage if you're not already there, and have a cross connection established between your networking infrastructure that's located there with the Microsoft Edge devices through the Equinix Cloud Exchange. Another thing that you can actually do is work with your Ethernet provider. Level 3 or Zayo or Colt would be a good example, depending on the geo you're from. They can have an Ethernet line running from your data center all the way to the Microsoft Edge router. So they set up that point-to-point Ethernet line or that point-to-point connection between your network endpoint and Microsoft, and you get to pick and choose how you want to configure routes between your endpoints and Microsoft in that path. The other option that we offer is the network service provider model. In this particular case, you have an IP VPN that you have with your favorite service provider, be it AT&T or Verizon or again Level 3 or British Telecom or Telstra, you name it. You have an any-to-any network that basically links all your branch offices. What we do here is have these service providers peer with us in one of these edge locations that we have within the Microsoft network, and through that they can hand off traffic from all your sites into Microsoft. The key difference between the two is essentially in terms of the billing models that we offer and the bandwidth options that we support for them. But from a technical perspective, the capabilities are pretty much identical between the two models. It's whatever works for you better. There's no solution A is better than solution B. So you could, in a lot of cases, just have a point-to-point connection established between your infrastructure and the Microsoft Cloud. Or on the other hand, you could choose to link your any-to-any network and make the Microsoft Cloud a true branch office of your network. So we offer both capabilities. And here are the partners. You've seen the partner list previously as I showed. You can work with each of these service providers and they can walk you through the right options for you and having the right connectivity solution enabled for you. Now when it comes to connectivity, we talk about the fact that Azure is just going to be a branch office. I've tried to abstract what a typical enterprise looks like into a small set of boxes here, which are essentially what I call routing domains. Now, you have the core network, which is all your back-end infrastructure, and your corporate network, which is where all the desktops, the laptops, the line of business applications that you care about actually run. And then you have your boundary servers, or you have an extranet, or your DMZ, in which you run a bunch of services. Your ADFS servers typically run in these kinds of DMZ locations. And you have heavy firewalling. Your security appliances and devices actually sit in that DMZ, and then you connect to the internet past your DMZ. Now, when you think about connectivity to the Microsoft Cloud, especially in the context of ExpressRoute, we support multiple routing domains. So you have different kinds of services that we offer, and that's why I've classified them differently on the right side. So you have Azure. The bottommost one is for virtual networks and virtual machines that you run in Azure. The middle one is for all services that we offer on public IPs, the Azure Site Recoveries, the storage services, SQL databases, machine learning, and so on. And finally, you have the Office 365 services. The security characteristics are what you want to think in terms of designing a network vary based on what you're trying to do. So essentially, if you're trying to extend your backend, shut down your traditional data centers and move those virtual machines into the cloud, look at the bottommost path, which is what we call virtual networks on the right side. You have what is called as a private peering that you can have for ExpressRoute. It's essentially a connection between the core network, between your core network and the virtual network, which is your own address space running as a virtual private network in Azure. You have this bidirectional connectivity established. So there's no connectivity that's leaked into the internet. I'll talk about connectivity to the internet in a bit, but essentially view that as your backend now moving from your traditional data center into Azure. It's in the trusted 10 private address space. It's going to have bidirectional connectivity going back and forth. Okay? Then you have services that you connect to, which is SQL databases, Azure Site Recovery, media services, websites, tons of services that we have in the platform. These are services that we offer on public IP addresses, so you could consume them either through the internet or through what we call as the Azure public peering or the extranet peering. Through this peering, you can connect two services. You can initiate connectivity from your premises into Microsoft, but you can never initiate connectivity, or we will not support connectivity originating from the Microsoft cloud going back into your premises. So that gives you some sense of, I wouldn't call security or protection, but it's good to know that we are not going to be initiating connections into you. We'll make sure that that attack vector is blocked, so no one can initiate connections from Azure. And that's one of the reasons why we don't support Visual Studio Online load testing over ExpressRoute. In fact, that's the only service in the entire portfolio of Azure services that we don't support over ExpressRoute, precisely because we don't want to initiate connections into your networks. We are okay with you initiating connectivity to us, but not the other way around. Now come Office 365, we've created yet another peering that we call the Microsoft peering. The reason we did that was you're now again talking to a public IP address on the Microsoft side, but you're going to have bidirectional traffic. Let's take the case where you're in the process of transitioning your mailboxes over to Exchange Online from Exchange, or you're using ADFS on-prem to authenticate connectivity to Exchange and so on. You will have to have bidirectional traffic where the Office 365 service has to initiate connectivity into your network. So in such cases, we decided we'd put it in a third peering, and our recommendation would be to put the Azure private peering directly into your core network. Think of putting the Azure public peering and the Microsoft peering into an extranet VPN or an extranet network, and for your compliance and security and auditing purposes, you could, the point where you bridge your core to this extranet, you could have a whole bunch of firewalls and proxies and whatever systems you needed to have in place to basically inspect, monitor, and make sure it meets your security needs. When I have this conversation and I show the slides to a lot of our customers, the first question I get asked is, hey, you're advertising prefixes to me. When you establish this peering, I'm going to advertise the Azure prefixes to you or the Office 365 prefixes to you. That makes the solution not very secure. The thing that I want you to take off of your head is routing and security are two orthogonal concepts. Just because you have reachability or have access to a bunch of IP addresses does not make the solution any less secure than what it was before. So having access to a bunch of IP addresses, specifically ones that we publish to you, doesn't open up any extra security holes within your platform. Just think about the fact that when you're engineering a solution for connectivity to the cloud, think of routing as an orthogonal plane from security. People tend to mix and match that. So I wanted to walk through a quick example of what it would look like if you're essentially using all these routing domains. I'm going to limit this to Azure. You had private peering, where you're extending a bunch of virtual machines into Azure, just like the SharePoint form that I showed you. And you have a bunch of services on the public endpoints. A good example would be Azure Site Recovery, as I showed you. You're consuming both. And in some cases, you want to access storage that's running in Azure from the virtual machines you're running in Azure. So you can have this private peering. You can have connectivity to the internet. You can choose to block connectivity to the internet or choose to have that connectivity to the internet. And the way you turn it on and off today is by advertising default routes to us or not. So if you advertise default routes to us, the internet doesn't exist. Everything will be routed through your network, so you can block connectivity. In such cases, you can route through the proxies on-prem, or you could route through to Azure back from your premises. So you have multiple options. If you don't advertise default routes, you will directly connect to these services. Now, I wanted to talk about the case where we talk about security. You wanted to secure the deployments that you have in Azure. The way you do that is we are going to announce a whole new suite of, or a set of partners who offer security appliances as services in the platform. So Yushun is going to be talking on Wednesday, where he's going to be talking about how you could run a Cisco or a Checkpoint as a virtual machine in Azure and offer security to the virtual networks that you run in Azure. So you can actually create a DMZ in Azure and have all the packets go through this platform. There's going to be a few other talks on virtual networking that talk about how you can define custom route tables for your virtual networks that let you accomplish these kinds of tasks. So Narayan is going to be talking about all those capabilities, I think, on Thursday morning. So the other way to secure is to basically go to the colo facility, have an edge, deploy all these security appliances in physical hardware. That's how you're used to deploying and managing them. You can continue to do that. And then from that point in time, extend your connectivity into Microsoft. So you have the option of essentially deploying something at the edge as well. Now let's talk about connectivity. Let's say you trust us enough, you've gone through the right security notions to essentially enable connectivity to Microsoft. What do you get? We have about 6 or 7 regions in the US. I've just represented them with these black Azure logos. By default, as I said when I started off, Microsoft can be viewed as one of the largest telcos. We own our own network. Pretty much every data center is connected to every other data center in the globe. So think of all of them as a flat network. Now let's say you had branch offices all over the US. I'm just picking US as an example. We'll extrapolate it to the rest of the globe in a few minutes. And you wanted to connect securely over ExpressRoute to Azure. And you pick the Silicon Valley region. When we set up the Silicon Valley region, our Silicon Valley edge is part of the Microsoft core network. You have access to all the US data centers if you were to connect there. So once you enable your ExpressRoute circuit through your WAN, you're essentially going to be connecting to your Azure or Office 365 data center of choice by going through the Silicon Valley peering location. That's where your connectivity provider, be it an exchange or be it a network service provider like AT&T, would route you through to the Microsoft network. So you could access from Boston to the US East data center through Silicon Valley. Not really optimal, but it's trusted, predictable connection between your premises and Azure. Now, to make that better, let's say you peered with us in US East. The same case where I had Boston connecting to US East can now go through the Washington, D.C. peering or our New York peering. The experience is going to be significantly better. And by having multiple peerings, if one of them, let's say there's an earthquake in Silicon Valley, God forbid, that peering location is down, you can completely fail over and have access between your corporate networks and Microsoft through the other peering location. So you have this full DR capability. The one thing that I'd like to say is that when we configure a single ExpressRoute circuit, we always peer with our service providers in redundant pairs of connections. So it's always active, and highly available. So we are protected against single points of failures within the Microsoft network or the service provider's network. So that's what we call high availability. This gives you protection against network DR. So in case the network completely goes down, there's a fiber cut or something like that, you're protected through this kind of a solution. Now let's expand this globally. You have different branch offices in different parts of the world. Typically, when you connect to a peering location in that continent, you have access to all the data centers in that continent. We are introducing a new capability called ExpressRoute Premium add-on. Through that, we are making this connectivity global. You connect to one peering location within the Microsoft network. You have access to all the Microsoft data centers around the globe. China is an exception, but pretty much all the Microsoft production data centers around the world. So as an example, if you had a virtual network running in Singapore and you are based in the US and you are using AT&T, you could have AT&T land you in Silicon Valley or Washington, D.C., and we will carry the traffic from Singapore to Silicon Valley and hand it off to AT&T. So that way, you can access pretty much any Microsoft service across any continent through a single express route circuit with this. But if you want to optimize for performance, it would be highly advisable to have multiple peering locations for each geo so that you're protected against failures and you get the best performance. So there are a lot of applications where having WAN optimizers in the path actually helps. So if you're using SharePoint, for example, WAN optimizers play great with SharePoint. So sticking WAN optimizers in the path will help you boost performance of your applications. So lastly, before I go into talking about Microsoft IT and how they do stuff, I talked about Skype for Business. Now we are going to be carrying voice, video, interactive communication, and all your site recovery and backup traffic. So you've got to plan your network really well. So basically, we recommend you to treat voice, video, and interactive traffic and the rest of the traffic very differently within your network. So we are working with service providers to offer different QoS models, different queues in which you could put each of these traffic. We'll publish guidances on how at an application layer, when you configure your services on-prem, you can configure them to tag packets with the appropriate diffserv values. So when it enters the service provider's network and the Microsoft network, we know how we should treat it from a QoS perspective so that we preserve and maintain the packets and treat them appropriately within our network. That way, if you're having a voice call, you won't have jitter or broken communication and so on. This is going to be critical. And this is part of the reason why it makes it extremely hard for service providers, though they've had QoS in their networks for a while. Offering end-to-end QoS for cloud services is something new that I think we're pushing the envelope with service providers. So it's taking the service providers and us time to wrap our heads around what we need to do in order to make sure that you have a great experience when you use these services. And finally, if you have any trust issues, you don't trust us enough, you can look at compliance certifications that we have. A good place to start would be the Microsoft Azure Trust Center. This is where we talk about all the compliance certifications that we have. And if you want to review the audit logs for each of these compliance certifications, the auditors will actually send your CISOs the audit logs and you can review them yourselves. So there's a tool that our documentation team put together that's accessible through the website. If you go there, you can actually click through different tiers and actually look at what you can do in each of these tiers. It's a good tool to think about the various tiers within your network. And finally, I did a lot of preaching today talking about this is how you should secure your network, this is how you should do your QoS network. Just to make sure we just don't preach, we had our IT organization do this in production first before we came up with this kind of a guidance. So what we talked to you all about is from the experiences of our Microsoft IT team and from other experiences of customers such as yourselves who adopted these services in the past. So we are a large IT organization at any scale. We have got about 200,000 devices and thousands of users and thousands of applications to power our IT organization. So if you have a huge organization, you need a network at scale to support them. And this slide talks about the scale of the Microsoft IT organization. This is what they manage on a day-to-day basis to basically make sure that we are all happy and we are able to do what we typically do. And we are preaching about everyone moving to the cloud or consuming the cloud in some shape or form. So Microsoft IT has to enable us to do that. So in fact, each developer within Microsoft today, if they want a dev or a test box, can actually go spin up a virtual network and create a test environment in Azure and do that. So if you look at the numbers, we have about 6,000 VMs that Microsoft IT has moved from their line of business applications into Azure, and they move about 1,000 virtual machines a day. We've set up ExpressRoute for them. They have about 400 odd circuits that they run, and that list grows by the week. And they have about 3.5 gigs sustained traffic, and it bursts to 15, 20 gigs into Azure at any point in time in a day. So it's between 3.5 and 15 to 16 gigs is what you see traffic coming into Microsoft. In addition to this, we have a parallel network based on ExpressRoute through which our developers consume Visual Studio Online. So their build environment is Visual Studio Online. They use another network powered by ExpressRoute to consume that. So the IT team has put in a lot of effort to basically consume what we've built. and it's been the ground where we test all our services before we roll it out to people such as yourselves. So when I talk Office 365, we go through the pains with our IT team before we subject you to it. So it's been tested really well when you get to use it. So just to give you an idea, as I talked about multiple peering locations and distributing connectivity, Microsoft IT has done the same thing. We have deployments in three different regions where the Microsoft IT network connects to Azure, and through that, and we've got 80 gigs in each of these regions connecting to the Microsoft corporate network. So there's quite a bit of bandwidth connecting the Microsoft corporate network into Azure. So this is an example of what a large organization such as ourselves do to consume the cloud. Should give you a good example of how you can think about the cloud. So I know I spoke a lot. A lot of things may have just gone past you. I apologize for that if I did, but I just wanted to quickly summarize. I hope over the next 3 or 4 days you get to attend quite a few sessions on Azure and you get to see the true value that we offer you. Basically, we have the scale, we have global coverage, we basically are enterprise grade. You'll see all the cool features show up in the next 4 days that are going to make you believe that we are enterprise grade. And of course, hybrid is our core strategy. You saw me spend the last hour talk to you about just connectivity from a hybrid perspective. So there's quite a bit more. So look at these scenarios, see if they fit you, and look at the services that are powering these scenarios, see if they are a good fit for you. ExpressRoute, of course, my favorite service. I spent the last 2 years on it, is going to help you basically break down the barrier of how you connect to the cloud and make cloud adoption a lot easier. And we have an ever-growing ecosystem of partners that we have out there that you can work with or reach out to us, and we can tell you whether your service provider can connect to us sooner or later. And get your hands dirty, try it all out, and let us know what you think. And stay tuned for connectivity to Office 365. So thank you. I hope you all enjoy the conference. If you have any questions, I'll hang out here and would love to talk to you.